Well, good morning and welcome back to the Common Farm Flowers channel. It's the 1st of August and I am making wedding flowers for my godson. So unusually, I'm behaving as a florist a little bit like the people who come to me to do DIY wedding flowers. I have to work with the constraints of a venue in an unusual place and a reception place I don't know, and I've got to use my imagination as well as the material I have in the field to make lovely flowers for my godson and his gorgeous girlfriend Millie. So I thought you might enjoy coming along with me, and I'll talk about how I'm making these flowers and planning to transport them, and they're going to be installed in 2 venues quite a long way away from each other in London. So it's fiddly, but it might inspire you to think about creating flowers yourself for weddings or events. Of course, florists are fantastic and they're very well trained, and they rightly, for a good proper fee, will take the load off of the stress if you don't want to do the flowers for yourself. But they are understandably not cheap, and so sometimes one can think, well, maybe I could have a go myself with doing some flowers, and they won't look floristy when you're done, but they will look as though you've made them with love, with flowers from your garden or your friends' gardens, or you went to the market, whatever. So I thought I'd take you through the process today and show you how I think about creating flowers for an event which I have to deliver to and look after, the whole process. So come along and we'll have some fun. First of all, we've got to go and cut everything. Actually, I've got some other jobs to do first, but we'll get there. And if you're new to the channel, you're very welcome. Do subscribe and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks we give you along the way are useful, you can always join my club. And the links to joining the club are in the blurb to all my clips. Right, on we go. So to make room for the flowers I'm about to cut, I've taken out, this is another DIY wedding that's being collected in an hour or so. It's nice shady this side of the studio, and the customer can drive up here and the flowers go straight in the boot of their car. And they are doing quite a big setup, and I've given them a balayage. I had already arranged to do my godson's wedding when this wedding came along, and so I said you can have a combination of really nice foliage, some nice pale colours. They love their hydrangeas, they love their dahlias, so I've got Natalie at Somerset Dahlias has supplied some of the dahlias. This is a really good balayage, or from dark to light through pinks and blushes, little tiny bit of apricot down there, and it goes through really to quite rich reds down there. And this is all going to North Cadbury Court, which is a brilliant venue. If ever you're looking for somewhere to hold a big wedding or an event, I think it sleeps 70. So it's a big, you don't have to put 70 people in it, but it's a really big family house. There's loads and loads of room for family and friends to gather from all over the world for a big family event, and so it's perfect for weddings. So quite often my flowers go up to the court, where, of course, being a big family house, there's a tradition of people going around the garden collecting flowers and making lovely arrangements for the house. So this sort of look works really, really well there. And so this I'm going to now leave ready for collection by the client by about 9. It's now 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to go and cut for my wedding. And I'm going to cut as if I'm one of you. That's 14, actually it's rather more than 14. I always slightly overcut, but the order was 14 buckets. The dahlias will be bruised, and so will the roses if I ram them into buckets. So they've got actually physically more buckets than they've ordered. That often happens, and being me, I've ordered them, I've cut them an extra bucket by mistake. Anyway, they can have all of that, and then no time to tidy up. We'll just carry on, very untidy, and get ready for the next thing. Welcome to my studio. So I have laid on the table all the containers I need, and I'm just going to run them through the dishwasher while I do the cutting. So they're all clean and shiny, because it's really nice to have clean and shiny containers for your wedding kit. These have all been used before. The test tubes are for the buttonholes. There are lots of buttonholes. And then the very little jars are for kind of wrist corsages that I'm doing for the ladies of the bridal party. And then the slightly larger jars are for the bridesmaids' posies. And you can see they've been used for another wedding and they're just going to be run through the dishwasher. The bigger vase is for the bride's bouquet. And then a mixture of jars, but they're quite heavy bottomed. And these, if you're looking for jars, and actually these have not been used before, you can see they've still got their labels on. These are from Morrison's supermarket if you're in the UK, and they're really nice. They're heavy bottomed, and I can do nice fat jars that are going to be pew ends and then be table centres afterwards. And I'm hoping that they will all fit in 3 of these bail arm trays, because I'm going to drive them to London tomorrow, park up at my friend's house in Leafy Barnes, and then dear old Addison Lee is going to take the strain. I'm basically going to have taxis driving me around London, and the flowers will go in and out of these bail arm trays for delivery and laying out and then collecting again. And the other container I've got is this old Common Farm Flowers box. It's very dry. It looks all manky, but it's very dry. And I'm going to fill it with blown rose petals as I go around. So I'm going to put it in my trolley, and as we cut the roses, I'm going to fill this with petals for confetti, because I think it's a lovely thing to have fresh petal confetti. I'm then going to go at some point today. There's a girl in Wincanton who makes the most lovely baskets, so I'm going to go and buy a special big basket. So all the confetti goes into the basket. We all throw the confetti as they arrive for the reception. And then that's their wedding present, is the basket, as well as the flowers. Because I think all married life needs to start with a good basket. A proper house needs a selection of very top quality baskets. They may want something else, but that's what they're getting. It's a beautiful day and the garden is full of flowers, and I can be opportunistic as well. So we'll start with the roses, not all of which are in brilliant condition, but look. If you saw my clip with the Tetbury Flower Farm, the last clip I posted, we were pinching out blown roses and keeping the buds, and that's exactly what I can do, and I can make fresh petal confetti as I go. So we'll have some pineapple mint because it smells delicious. I have lots of mint here, and so I cut it for all kinds of occasions, but for this one, we're having pineapple mint, great for posies and bridesmaids. And these small rosemary plants are made from cuttings that I took last winter, and they're filling up a bit. So actually, it's quite timely to snip out the long stems for the bride's bouquet. It's very important to have, for her, really important to have rosemary for remembrance, because there's somebody particularly who's not there, who sadly died, and so we're going to have some rosemary so that they are there in spirit. The hydrangeas are looking amazing, so we'll have plenty of those. And the variegated cornus is one of my favourite foliages, so we'll have some of that. The verbena hastata makes lovely filler, but I'm going to save that. I've got another event next week that I'm going to save that for. There's a Scottish edge to this wedding too, so I'm going to be using some of my dried globe thistles to remind everybody that there's a Scottish relationship. And the other dried material I will certainly use a little bit of is this lovely limonium, which we've dried for Christmas, but it's a sort of lovely, sort of feathery, heathery look. And again, it's not heather, but for a sort of Scottish, it's not heather, but it would work well. The colours are going to be a little bit heathery, little bit. Well, look, it's coming together. It's not heathery so much as blue in tone, so blue tone dahlias. The roses are quite pink, but look, blue tone. I call that a blue tone, that Bonica rose. And the silvery edge to the mint makes it blue. So it's a little bit of blue in it. And look at these dahlias, the blue tone dahlias here. So there's a heather, when it comes together, it's going to feel a little bit heathery. It's nice to have a bit of dried material as well, because I don't know, I think it's August. We're starting to have a dried season. Right, choices. So many to choose from. This is Lydia's Willow Weaving in Wincanton. Highly recommend. Which one will I have? Look at that. I have to say, as an idea for a wedding present, you could, if you have a garden and you've got some rose petals, you go to the nearest person who makes really lovely baskets, in my case Lydia's Willow Weaving in Wincanton, and you invest in a lovely basket, which, you know, I think married life needs a basket in it for many, many reasons, but I think this will make a very nice small log basket in a little cottage in Shropshire. And you fill it with rose petals from the garden, and then that's fresh petal confetti for throwing, and a really, really lovely wedding present. I mean, just isn't that just gorgeous? Right, so there it is, all cut and ready to go. Plenty of space for it all. And dog basket, obviously. Everybody needs a dog basket in their studio. And so I've laid all that out. And then I've laid out the containers that I need to fill. So those are the big, they're going to be sort of make a carpet of flowers on the floor where they get married at Lambeth Town Hall. Those are for the buttonholes, those are for the bridesmaids, that's for the bride. These are, it's a really nice idea. It's quite a small wedding party, and so the kind of important ladies are going to have, so the boys get the buttonholes, the gents, and the ladies are all getting a little posy, which I'm going to make so they can tie them on as wrist corsages if they like. And then the very last of the sweet peas I've cut for the bride's bouquet. I can now rip the sweet peas out, make room for biennials. Now you might think that I would start by making the bride's bouquet, but I always like to do something a bit simpler to get my eye in, kind of loosen up, get going. So I'm going to make the least important, the posies, which are going to be a carpet of flowers in which the bride and groom are going to be married at Lambeth Town Hall, and then they're going to be moved to the barge where the reception is going to happen, where they're going to carpet the entrance to the barge, and all the guests are going to arrive, and they're going to throw this lovely basket of confetti, and it's going to make a lovely photograph of the bride and groom arriving for the reception. And then those posies are going to be dotted around the barge, and there's no formal sit-down dinner, it's just a party. Lovely, very highly recommend. So it doesn't matter if they're quite tall, and it doesn't matter how much, and actually in a way I want them to take up as much space as they can, because there are only 12 of them, and I can group them as one tall, it's a design thing, so one tall and 3 medium-sized, and that will make a little carpet, like a mat of flowers, which will look really nice in the photographs. Now, also another thing about colour, if you ever look up Lambeth Town Hall as a place to be married, you'll see that the room where the weddings happen is this rather glorious painted pale blue with lots of gilding. It's really, stunning. So it doesn't need it's kind of dramatic, so it doesn't need a huge amount of flowers because you've got quite a lot there. But I'm conscious of the colour, so one of the reasons that we've gone kind of white, pale pinks, blue, lilac is they won't fight with the pale blue and the gilding of the room where the ceremony will happen. And then they'll just be on the barge afterwards. So that's great. So what I'm going to do is I'll make some up and I'll show you what I'm doing when I've made the first lot. Right. So they're kind of herby and grassy. They're not too enormous, but they've got enough to fill a bit of space, and they'll look really nice, I think, against the pale blue, because look here, little tiny bit of really almost pale blue there in the salvia. And the scent is fantastic. This is Salvia sclerea, and it has the most lovely scent. So this is really sort of herby scent. And together they're quite effective. Even on their own, they're quite effective, but I think they'll work very nicely in the space we have. And look, you see on the ground, they make a really nice kind of carpet of flowers. It's a lovely thing to do. If you can't do pew ends, or you can't do, if you're kind of wondering how to make a bit of wow factor in a place that doesn't necessarily have much focus, you can frame the area where the bride and groom are going to stand by putting just tall, they don't have to have an enormous amount of stems in them. So these have got let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stems each. So not a huge amount of stems, and they're really, really effective. I'm very pleased with those. And now I'll make the bride's bouquet, because I've kind of loosened up and I've worked. You could be the most experienced florist. I'm a gold medal Chelsea Flower Show winning florist, okay? So I really know what I'm doing, but it's still good to kind of loosen up and just do something that it just kind of gets you in the mood when you start doing your floristry. So I'm now going to make the bride's bouquet, and I'm going to use you to look at it. I always recommend that people have a mirror where they do their floristry, because you can then hold up a bouquet and see how it's working. Obviously, I am no bride. I've met the beautiful bride, and she may be about the same height as me, but she's a considerably less water displacement, let's say. But I can still kind of hold the bouquet and get an idea of how it's going to hang and hold and so on. And I'm going to use my camera, but you could use a mirror. And it's a really good idea. Right, I'm going to put you back on the slow-mo, or the whizzy-whizzy, or whatever you call it, and make the bride's bouquet. No, she is. Not unhappy with that. I hear voices outside. I suspect one of my children is coming to ask me for money. I'll make them earn it. I love this. It's sort of bluish tones, kind of lavendery feel. There's that, the thistle for Scotland. It's not a real thistle, obviously. It's a globe thistle, but very nice, pale. That's Queen of Sweden. Lovely scented mint. And the small-headed hydrangeas are so great. It's because we haven't had an enormous amount of rain. So the hydrangea heads have come out quite small. The last of the sweet peas tucked in there. And I remembered, miracolo, the rosemary. Just 3 sprigs of rosemary. And very, very important, in memory. Nice bride's bouquet. I mean, people love blush and kind of slightly, apricot tones, but I love it. I'm very keen on a kind of blue toned. I know it's pink, but it's sort of blue toned. It makes a change after all the blush. Also, yes, just say yes to very dark red pom-pom dahlias tucked in there for some depth of field. And so while I was doing that, one of the sweet peas broke off, so I'm going to put it in the groom's buttonhole. And these lilac dahlias will open up on his jacket during the day and become more outrageous. Yeah, there's the groom's buttonhole. You see how the limonium isn't heather, but it's heathery. And this is not a thistle, but it's thistle-ish. And the lilac of the dahlia is very attractive, and a little rosebud there to ping out during the day. And it's all framed with some brachioglottis leaf. Very attractive, I think. So we're very much later the same day, and I've made the bridesmaids' posies, and they're all different. They have 3 dahlias and 3 roses, but other than that, they're all slightly different, and I like fun. You don't have to do floristry that's completely samey. What I think is good about these is that they have the same number of stems in, and so they have the same sort of weight to them. So the bridesmaids can stand together, and their flowers will be about the same size when they're holding them, but they won't all match. It's not too matchy-matchy. Don't have to be matchy-matchy. Look. They're sweet. A little bit of purple, a little bit of lilac, a little bit of froth, a little bit of pink, a little bit of amivisnaga, a little bit of limonium. You know, nice. And so there are 6 of those. And I realised, of course, that I was very excited about my buttonhole I made. But I forgot to include the sweet pea that I was also excited about. So I'm going to redo that because I think it'd be nice to have the sweet pea in it. But I've got 6 posies now. And if you saw a clip I made a few weeks ago, I made 14 small, they're like extra big buttonholes, and they can be worn. So I'm going to do them so they could be worn as a wrist corsage, or they could be pinned as a corsage. And the bride had said, could they have 7 of them? No, 6 of them. So I've done a little jar for each one. And I'm going to take enough ribbon. I'm going to be there. I'm a guest at the wedding. So I'm going to take lots of ribbon, and I'm going to take extra big pins so that people can choose where they want to wear these flowers, or if they just want to carry them around or whatever. They could carry, I mean, they're tiny jars. They could just carry them like a bunch of flowers. And I expect they will end up back at the reception, back in their jars, and be just more in the mix. Right, so I'm going to make those. So I've got my 6 bridesmaids. I'm going to make my 6 little posies, and then there are 16 buttonholes, and then I'm going to take the leftovers, of which there are going to be a fair bit, and I'm going to just fatten up those big posies I made at the beginning, just to use up the leftovers. But because they were all started off the same, again, it'll be a bit like the bridesmaids' bouquets. Each one will have sort of the same weight. So they'll look nice when they're laid out together. They'll have a kind of consistency, even though they won't be too matchy-matchy. And then tomorrow morning I'll pack it all up and drive it up to London. Ooh, exciting. So here is my godson's enormous buttonhole. Look at that. It's the size of a small house. Very smart. He's a very glamorous and stylish fellow. He'll look great. He can get away with a lot of flowery action. It'll be very good on him. The others are a little bit smaller, but only a little bit. And they're being tucked into little jars. So they're like little posies made with buttonholes. But also means I can transport them. I've got to get everything in the car, and then I've got to get everything from the car into an Addison Lee big car, and then drive it all around London about 5 times. So there we go. Nice. That's a nice way to carry your buttonholes. And of course they're in these little test tubes, which are all, I just ran them through the dishwasher. They've been used about 9 times already. And, the idea is the floristry industry uses a surprising amount of waste. We throw away paper and packaging and boxes and string and elastic bands and cellophane and blah, 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 all of that. So I'm really sort of trying to do a bit less of that. So all of this can come home tomorrow and get used again. Waste not, want not. So it's Saturday morning and I'm just topping up the little containers. You'd be amazed how much flowers drink. If you're making wedding flowers and you make them the night before, do take time or tell somebody to go and check the water levels on Saturday morning because they're really thirsty. Anyway, and these are going to London, so they've got to be well topped up for a journey. And this is where being a guest at a wedding as well as doing the wedding flowers starts to become, this is where you want to really think about it if you want to do the wedding flowers. If I'm the florist, I can wear this clothes, obviously without the dog lead, all day. And it doesn't matter if I'm wearing my comfortable, very split old shoes and a grubby shirt and so long as I've got my brand on my breast, all is well. But because I'm also a guest and it's outside my area, so I'm not just driving to a venue 10 minutes away, arranging everything, coming back, putting on my party dress and then going back again. So I've got to put my party dress on, yet to be ironed. I will have a bath as a gift to all the other guests. So I'm going to have to put my party dress on, put a clean apron over the top, and my party dress, because I'm only 5'2", all dresses are floor length on me, which is really annoying, but anyway. And they're designed, you can't just shorten them because they've got floaty skirts and stuff. Anyway, so I've got my long, good Jasper Conran dress with an apron over it. I'm also going to be running in and out of delivering the bride's bouquet and then setting up the wedding itself and then taking all the flowers away from the wedding and taking them before all the other guests get there. They're going to have a kind of little champagne reception at the ceremony, where the ceremony is, and then everybody's going to come over to where the reception is. But I am going to put all the flowers back in the crates. I've ordered the taxis. I'm going to have Addison Lee vans are going to drive me around. So the Addison Lee van is going to collect me from the ceremony in my party dress and take me to the reception where I'm going to arrange everything out, put everything out, ready for when all the guests come, and then last, the bride and groom are going to come and we're all going to throw all the confetti. But I have to do all of this in my best party dress and shoes. And I really am going to, so this is where you're like, okay, glamour schmammer. I'm just going to wear comfortable trainers. And luckily the dress is a long dress, so you don't really see the trainers. But it's not a very it's sort of taking away from the wedding-y look. Anyway, these are things you have to think about if you're going to do wedding flowers for a friend or family member. When are you going to get out of your scuzz bucket clothes and have a bath? When are you going to schedule the bath? When are you going to wash your hair? When are you going to put your party dress on? Are you going to need an apron all the time? So I'm going to have my florist kit, which will have a pair of snips, a pair of ribbon scissors, 2 different kinds of ribbon, 2 size pins, and a tea towel. Because the tea towel, I can dry the stems of the buttonholes, the bouquets, the posies, the bride's bouquet, before they carry them down the aisle or however they're going to carry them. Because right now they're in water, because I'm an eco-florist and I just grow flowers, cut them, arrange them, put them in water, and at the last minute they get carried around and then they get put back in water because I've still got the jars. So because people don't want to carry around, you don't spend the rest of the day carrying your bouquet, you're quite keen to put it down because then you can hug people and drink champagne. Anyway, so I've got to be ready for all of that. So the apron will come with me and it'll be everything I can do to take it off at the last minute. But that also means I take a different handbag. So normally, I'm not a big handbag person. Normally, I just have whatever I need in my pockets. So I'm actually going to have a handbag, and it's going to have to be big enough to hold an apron when I take it off, and the 2 kinds of ribbon snips, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, things to think about if you're thinking about doing DIY wedding flowers for a friend. And yesterday, I didn't finish till 7 o'clock in the evening, but that's not because that's all I did all day, but it is really worth thinking about how long it's going to take you to do. I did stop, and I had a meeting with Fabrizio about something, and then I went and got the basket, and it's the school holiday, so the children I need to be taken somewhere or fetched somewhere, and I had a child doing a driving test, and all of that stuff happened. So I didn't finish doing the floristry till 7 o'clock last night. And again, it's really worth thinking about what are going to be the other calls upon your time. If you want to do the wedding flowers, that's lovely, but you really want to make it so that you're not doing anything else, or know that you're very fast. It's your call. Anyway, I'm now going to pack these up into trays, and then I'm going to go and have coffee and the bath, iron the dress, put it on, and then pack it all in the car, because also you don't want it to be in a hot car for too long. Right, better get on. So here's the fresh petal confetti. I took it yesterday, very hot, dry day, admittedly. So this is what it looks like when you've it's a day old. So people worry about taking fresh petal confetti, whether it'll look nice the next day. Well, I'd say that's all right. And the flowers are going in these bail arm trays, so called because they have these bail arms. And look, there's room here at this end for the buttonholes. They're all tucked in, nice and safe in there. Right, all set. That will fit in the back of the car and in a small van of an Addison Lee. I don't think it'll fit in the back of an ordinary Addison Lee, which is why I've booked the big one. And I've got my ribbons. I'm taking my snips. I don't mind if I lose. Not my good snip, not my favourite snips. Good snips, but not my favourite snips. Spare pins, ribbon scissors. I need my clean apron and a tea towel, but otherwise I'm pretty much ready to go. Right, time for breakfast. Change of plan. I forget I have this dress, and it's a really lovely summery dress, but it's not as long or it's just as much fabric as the Jasper Conran. I got it at Rose and Lions from my friend Nikki Mendoza, and that is what I'm going to wear because it's much more comfortable, sort of it's shorter, believe it or not. So if I'm picking up and putting flowers down, that's a better dress. In the end, comfortable shoes, linen trousers, very sort of party trousers, and a freshly laundered blouse, nice pink earrings, and string of pearls. That'll do, I think. And that's kind of, I can work in it, but also, for me, that's very party, but very comfortable. Oh yes, because we're going to look glamorous as the godmother, but also be able to do all the stuff. And London's always so hot. Okay, on we go. Very nice, very nice. Nothing like freshly laundered clothes to cheer a person up. And we're off. London bound. Turn the bride round so she's leaning against the back of the seat. We don't want her rocking. And this is Fabrizio's polishing kit, which for no good reason is in the back of my car. So here we are at Lambeth Town Hall, and I've got all the flowers ready for collection. Those are the bridesmaids are there, and all the buttonholes and for the ushers and the dads and so on are there. And it's a really stunning venue. The problem is it's full of unmovable flowers made of silk, which actually they're not, for silk flowers that I've seen a great deal worse, but we can't move them. But I've put the common farm flowers are down here. So the bride and groom, the wedding will happen surrounded by common farm flowers. They don't show up very well in clip, but they're beautiful in real life. They've got better colour. They're not as silhouetted. And it's very nice. You can imagine the bride and groom standing here ready, having their readings and making their vows. Very nice. And of course, I'm suitably boiling hot, but I've got half an hour to cool down before people start arriving. So I'm going to gently tie the ribbons on the bridesmaids' posies and make sure that that's all ready to go.
Confetti, because it lands in the right place.
On the wall. Through it all.